Software Engineering. This is Sheikh Namzullah, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology. So today in this session we are going to discuss about building the analysis model. So here this is the last session of second unit. So let us see the agenda or outcomes of this session. So here we are going to discuss first why data modeling concept. What is data modeling? Next, data objects, attributes, relationships, class-based modeling, and specifying attributes and defining operations. So these are the concepts which we are going to discuss in this session. So let us start our session. So why we need data models? So in order to develop a software, in some situations the requirements needs to include to modify or to create or interface with the database, or if you want to create a complex data structures. So in some situations, in some projects, the software engineers has to create a complex data structures. At that situation, the developers are going to create the data models. So see here, the software teams create a data models, and then the software engineers are going to define all the data models which are going to be used in a particular application. And then we are going to use entity relationship diagrams that addresses the issues and represents all data objects. So what is data objects? So data objects, if a software engineer comes across a situation where he needs to create a complex data structures to construct or manipulate, at that situation we are going to create the data models. And a software engineers or analysts are going to create all the data objects. So whatever the data objects are there, so all data objects are going to be created. All data objects are going to be created within that application. And we are going to use entity relationship diagrams, so which are going to address the issues and represents those data objects. So that is why we need for data modeling objects. So in the data modeling objects, we are going to create, while we are going to interact with the database or interface with the database, or while we are going to create the complex data structures, we are going to create the data models. So here what we are going to discuss is, so here a data object is a representation of composite information. So it is a representation of composite information. So that must be understood by a software. And therefore the width would not be valid. So only the width will not be valid with the data objects, but dimensions could be defined as an object. Dimensions in the sense it may be a height, width and depth. And data object can be external entity. Data object can be external entity. For example, it can be a thing. Thing means it may be a report or it may be some results of display. And next it can be a occurrence. Occurrence, in that we can say example as telephone call, or event. Event in the sense we can create an alarm, we can create a task, or we can create a reminder. So all this comes under the event. And next one, it may be a role. So for example, we can consider salesperson, manager or product engineer, or it can be an organizational unit, so which comes under accounting department, or it may be a place, that is example as data warehouse, or it may be a structure, so that structure contains files. So all these are external entities of data object. So that is about data objects. So a data object, what it is going to do, it is going to encapsulate data only. That means it is going to hide actual unnecessary data, and it is going to project the actual data. So therefore there is no reference within the data objects to operation that act on the data. So there will be no reference within the data objects to operate that particular data. So for example, if you see this diagram, so this is a diagram where we are going to have attributes. So if you see the diagram, we have different attributes. So here in the heading, we can find different attributes like make, model, ID, body color, body type, color and owner. So here we have a identifier, so which is a unique one, which is used for identifying our instance of object, and we have an instance here. So this instance tells us the object, so that is an instance of object. So for example here, Chevy Corvette is an instance of the object. So this is data object. Okay. So that is data objects. So in data objects, data is encapsulated, and therefore there will be no reference within the data object to operate on that particular data. So if you see the diagram, we have different types of attributes, and in these attributes we can find like manufacturing units of the car. So you can find the different attributes. For example, you can see the instance of the object like Chevrolet. So now we will discuss about data attributes. So data attributes define the properties of data objects, and it is going to take any one of the different characteristics among the three. So first one is, it is going to name the instance of an data object, or it is going to describe the instance, or making reference for another instance in another table. So these are the three things, or any one of the three things we can going to consider in the data attributes. In addition to this, there are one or more attributes must be defined as an identifier. So identifier is something which will have a unique values. So to identify a particular object, particular instance of object, we are defining the identifier. So if you see this example, car example, we have attributes like make, model, ID, body type, color and owner. And apart from this, we have a identifiers which have a unique properties. So where it is going to use to identify easily or to map with the other attributes easily. So here the instance of this particular thing is particular data object. Here it is given as an example. Chevy Corvette is given as an example. So that is data attributes. And we have different attributes like descriptive attributes, where it is going to describe about the body type. So that is what body type, color. So that is descriptive attributes. And next one is referential attributes. So referential attributes means it is going to have interrelated. See here, it is going to tie one data object to another in this case. That means it is having references, or it is going to have a link with the other data objects. So that is referential attributes. And now we are going to see relationships. So data objects are going to interconnect, or going to connect with different ways. So consider this is an example, data object, person and a car. So here how we are going to define the relationship. So if you see the diagram, so if you see the first diagram, here we have a person and car. So these are the two objects, but here we are not defining any kind of relationship. So if you think that, if you consider this as a data object and another one is an object, so we have to connect. So we have to connect one another in different ways. So in this example, person and car are the two objects. So what the person will do? So person will owns the car. Person will owns the car, and the same person can insure to drive the car. And the same person issued to drive the car. So in this representation, we can understand what is the relationship between a person and car object or data objects. Whereas here, we cannot understand the person and car. So here, relationship means there is really a connection between the data objects. So if you take this example, we have two data objects, one is person, another one is car. So in the first one, in the first case, so we are not defining any kind of relationship here. So only person and car is there. If you see in the next one, so here we are defining the relationship between the person and car. So what the person is going to do? Person is going to own the car. So that is one relation. This is the relationship here. So this is the relation here. So the person is going to own the car, and the person can insure to drive the car. So that is the relationship between the data objects of person and car. So in this way, we can represent the relationships by diagrammatical form. So here the class-based modeling represents the objects. The system will manipulate the operations that will be applied to the objects to affect the manipulation relationship between the objects, and collaborations that occur between the classes which are defined. So that is class-based modeling. So in the class-based modeling, we are going to represent the objects that will be manipulated by the system or operations, and that will be applied to the objects to the effect. So that objects are going to affect the manipulation relationship between the object, and as well as collaborations that are objects or classes are defined. Next one is identifying the analysis class. So in identifying analysis class, first we are going to test the user scenarios. We are going to test the user scenarios. So here we are going to identify the user scenarios, so which are developed as a part of requirements model, and we are going to check the grammatical phases. So we are going to check the grammatical parts on the use case developed for the system to be built. So here what we are going to do, we are going to identify by examining the user scenarios. That means we are going to test the use cases. So in that use cases, we are going to check the grammatical parses. We are going to check on the use cases, so which are going to be used for developing the software. And classes are determined by underlining each noun or noun phrases and entering into a simple table. So if the class that is noun is required to implement a solution, then it is a part of. So if the class noun is required to implement a solution, then it is a part of solution space. Otherwise, if a class is necessary only to describe a solution and it is a problem, then it is a part of problem space. So here, if the class is noun or it is required to implement a solution, then it is a part of solution space. So it is a part of solution space. Otherwise, if a class is necessary only to describe a solution, then it is a part of only problem space. We are going to follow in the identifying the analysis classes. So now we are going to see some more detail, like what should we look once all the nouns have been isolated. So first one is external entities. So external entities, in that external entities there will be other systems, devices and people. That means external entities may be consume or produce the information. The next one, things. So here we are going to generate a reports and displays some results, letters or signals. It is a part of application. The next one, occurrence or events. So occurrence or events are the domain knowledge of the particular application. For example, division and group team. Next one, roles. So roles means it is going to include managers, engineers and salespersons. So in this one, so the particular persons are going to involve or they are going to check that particular application. And next one, organizational units. Next, places. So in the places we are going to see manufacturing floor or loading dock. Finally, structures. So in the structures we are going to check, for example, sensors, four-wheel vehicles or computers. So these things we are going to see in the when we isolate the nouns. So now we will see specifying the particular attributes. So here attributes describe a class that has been selected for inclusion of requirements model. So attributes describe a class that has been selected for the inclusion of requirements model. For the inclusion of requirements model, we are going to attributes. So attributes means it is going to describe a class that has been selected for inclusion in the requirements model. And next one, it is a attribute that defines the class. So attributes, simply we can say, it is going to define the class. So if you take a class of vehicles, so there are so many class of vehicles like lorries, cars, buses, like that. So all these are objects. So for these objects we have different kinds of attributes. So those attributes we will be having for each and every class. So that is what attributes are going to define the class. So that is identifying attributes. So here in identifying attributes, so attributes describe a class that has been selected for inclusion of the requirements model, and it is going to describe that attributes are going to define a class. So now we will see one example. So for example, if you are going to design a system for baseball players, so if you are designing a baseball players system for baseball statistics for professional baseball players. So if you are going to develop a system for baseball statistics for professional baseball players, so we can see the attributes here. So suppose if you are going to create this kind of system, so there will be a class called player. So we have to create a class player. So for player there will be attributes. So that means, so player will have attributes like, so what is his average batting, what is his how many number of matches he has taken, and how many sixes are he have given, and what is his achievements. Everything will be included in the player. And next one, in that one, if you are going to develop another system like professional baseball pension system. So if you are developing this professional baseball pension system for that particular players, so the attributes are going to change. So for this one, the attributes may be what is his average salary, and what is his CTC, like what is his annual income, and what are the deductions he is having. So all these things we have to consider. So attributes are going to be changed for different things. So here, for example, so in this example, if you are going to create a system for baseball professionals for calculating the statistics, so first we have to create a class. So first we have to create a class called player. So for this player we will be having number of attributes. Number of attributes like what is the name of the player, what is his position, what is his batting, average and fielding percentage. So how many number of years he played and how many number of games he played. So these are the attributes which are related to player. And in the same time, if you are going to develop a pension system for those professional baseball players, so the attributes are going to change. So in that one, so we need to add some more attributes like, so what is his salary, what is the annual income, and how much we are going to have deductions. All these attributes we have to include. So this is one example for specifying the particular attribute. So in specifying attributes, we are going to see the example. So if you are going to develop a baseball statistics for professional baseball players. So if you are going to develop a software for these professional players, so first there will be a class. We need to create a class called players. So we are going to create a class called players. So in that players we will be having attributes like what is the name of the player, what is his position, and what is the batting average, what is his fielding percentage, and how many years he played, and how many number of games he played. So these are the attributes which are related to the player. And in the same manner, if you are going to create or if you are going to build a system called professional baseball players pension system. So for these players, you are going to create a pension system. Okay. So while developing this pension system, we need to consider different attributes when compared to the player attributes. So sometimes it may include the attributes. So in this one, so for developing professional baseball pension system, so in this one we will be having different attributes like what is the average salary of a player and his credit towards full vesting and whether he is having pension plan options or not and mailing address. So these are the additional attributes which we need to specify while developing the pension system for this baseball players. So in this example, what you have understood is we are creating two classes or we are building two things. One is having a class for players and another one is for pension system for these professional players. So in the class we will be having some attributes. The same attributes may not be present in the pension system. So that is about the example of specifying the attributes. So in defining operations, we are going to check what are the operations we can perform on the object and their behavior. So here let us see one by one. So first one, operations that are manipulates data in some way. So we are going to perform operations on the data that is going to manipulate the data in some way, and operations that performs the calculation. So that going to performs the computation or calculation. And the operations we are going to inquire about the state of an object. So we are going to inquire about the state of an object. What is the state we are going to inquire. And finally, operations that is going to monitor an object for the occurrence of controlling an event. For the occurrence of controlling the event. So these are the operations which we are going to perform on the objects. So if you take an example of safe home requirements which we have discussed in the last session. So this is an example of safe home processing narrative. So here sensors are assigned a number and type, a master, a type. So here sensors are assigned a number and type, or a master password is programmed for activating and deactivating the system. So these phrases indicates a number of things. So number of things means here. So these are the things. So first one is assign operation. So assign function is going to be relevant for the sensor class. So it is related to the sensor class. And next one is program operation. So program function will be applied to the system class. And last one, activating and deactivating operation, which is related to the system class. So different types of functions are there, different types of operations we are going to perform on a particular or different classes. So here sensors is assigned a number and a type, or master password is programmed for activating and deactivating the system. So that means here what we are doing, we are going to perform a safe home processing. So that means how we are going to activate or how we are going to perform these operations which are related to different classes. So these phrases indicates number of things, like first one, assigning operation. So assigning operation which is related to the sensor class. And next one, program operation. Program operation obviously related to the system class. And next one, arm and disarm, that is activation and deactivation, that is also related to the system class. Okay. So here in safe home, so these are the operations which we are going to perform on different classes where the data is going to be changed. And next we are going to discuss about CRC, that is class, responsibility and collaborator. So CRC model or class, responsibility, collaborator. Class, responsibility, collaborator. So in this CRC model, it is going to provide a simple means for identifying, organizing the classes that is relevant to the system or product requirements. So it is going to describe by following these ways. So Angular describes the CRC model in the different ways. Like first one, so CRC model is a collection of index cards that represents the classes. And next one, in the index cards at the top of the place we are going to represent the name of the class. And in the body of the card, so on the left side we are going to represent the responsibilities, and on the right sides we are going to represent the collaborators. So Angular defines CRC model is a collection of standard index cards which is going to represent the classes. So on the top of the card we are going to write the name of the class. So in the body of the card, so on the left side we are going to write the responsibilities, and on the right side we are going to write the collaborators. So that is the description given by the Angular about the CRC modeling. So let's see the example of CRC model. So in the CRC model, we will be having, suppose that this is a class contains a floor plan. So as per the description, as I already told you, on the top of the card, so the name of the class is written, and at the left side responsibilities are written, and right side collaborators are going to be written. If you see this example, so in this example, so classes floor plan is the name of the class, and here responsibilities. So different responsibilities are there, like define the floor plan and manages floor plan position and scales floor plan for display, and next incorporate walls, doors and windows, and shows the positions of the video camera. So these are the responsibilities which we are representing on the left side of CRC card. On the right side we are representing the collaborators. Like wall and camera. So this is the example for CRC cards, that is class, responsibility and collaborative. So in addition to this, we are having like associations, dependencies and collaborations. So these are the different types of entities where we can use for understanding of better requirements. So for better understanding, we can use associations, collaborations and dependencies. So these are the things we can use for better understanding of the development of business analysis model. So in this session, what we actually learned is what are the data model. So why we need to create data model, and what are the data objects and attributes and their relationships. So these are the things which we have discussed, like class-based modeling. So in class-based modeling, we have discussed how to specify a particular attributes, and we have defined different operations which we are going to perform on the objects. So these are the things which we have discussed, right? So what is a class here? So we have objects, classes, attributes, and we have defined all the relationships. So if you take an example of vehicle, so vehicle is a class. In that vehicle, we will be having different types of objects. So objects means like cars, buses and lorries. So these objects will have different types of attributes. So because car will have 6-seater or 5-seater, but whereas bus will have 60-seater. So that is the difference between these attributes. And also we can define the relationships between these two objects. So what is the relationship? We have seen one example like person and car example. So in that the person can owns the car and person can insures to drive the car. So these are the two examples of data objects. And next one, we have defined different specifying attributes. So depending upon the class which we are going to represent, we have to define the attributes or particular attributes. And then we have defined operations, what kind of operations we are going to do on the objects and how it is going to behave. So these things we are seeing in the defining the operations. So in this session we have discussed these things, right? So I hope you understood all these sessions. So next we will see the conclusion. So now, till now we have discussed different things about how to build the analysis model. So now we will see the conclusion. So in this session we have discussed what is data modeling concepts, like why actually we need data model. The next one, data objects, attributes, relationships, class-based modeling. So in class-based modeling we have seen how to specify the particular attributes, and next we have defined the operations which we have seen in this session. So I hope you understood these concepts. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. So this is the end of second unit. So thank you for watching. Happy learning.